A lot going on in the world. We could be out somewhere and doing something, but unfortunately, this is discontentment. Hip hop versus America. Or is it Diddy versus America? We don't know. But the truth of the matter is, we have to study the case once and for all. Take a listen, y'all. We're gonna play the FBI files that they claim that they found inside Sean Diddy Combs' home.
The vault was concealed behind a false wall in the lower level of the home. Access required biometric clearance. Not even the house staff were aware of its existence. The room reacted with a ripple of gas and widened eyes. Diddy's legal team shifted uncomfortably. Diddy himself sat stone-faced, his hands folded so tightly his knuckles turned white. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now let's get back to it, Agent Monroe continued, pulling no punches. Once inside, we found an extensive archive, digital and physical, labeled compartments, encrypted drives, dozens of classified folders with initials and dates. But what stood out most was the pattern. The prosecutor leaned forward. "What kind of pattern, Agent?" Monroe took a deep breath. There was an entire section labeled Assets. Inside were files containing images, contracts, correspondence, some going back over 20 years. These weren't just business records. These were leverage files, blackmail materials, personal secrets, audio and video footage. In some cases, confessions, recorded, transcribed, stored with timestamps. Shock vibrated through the room like a low, ominous chord. People glanced at one another, their expressions asking the same silent question. How long had this been happening? Monroe's voice hardened. We also discovered a private log, handwritten, detailed. It referenced individuals, famous names, lesser-known insiders, next to notes like paid, compliant, still useful, or waiting for the right time. It was not the kind of document kept by someone protecting memories. It was kept by someone managing power. A woman in the gallery audibly gasped. The judge raised his gavel but hesitated, sensing the weight of what was unraveling. And there was more, Monroe said. A room within the vault, locked with a separate passcode. Inside, we found a safe. We have only begun processing the contents, but what I can say is this. The vault wasn't a panic room. It was a control room. With that final word, the courtroom fell into stunned stillness. No objections, no noise, just the unbearable gravity of what had been revealed. And this was only the beginning. The courtroom remained frozen in disbelief. Even seasoned journalists used to high-profile scandals and headline-grabbing trials sat stiff in their seats, visibly shaken by the calm but devastating revelations coming from the witness stand. Agent Monroe adjusted his suit, then leaned slightly closer to the microphone. The next words out of his mouth would take the case and the room to a darker place. Among the encrypted drives, he said, our digital forensics team discovered a folder titled Pending Insurance, Level Red. The prosecutor blinked. Level Red? Monroe nodded. According to internal FBI classification, the tag indicates material of the highest sensitivity, either containing evidence of criminal coercion, national level relevance, or potential threats to life or safety. In this context, it seemed to be Diddy's personal failsafe. People in the gallery were visibly rattled. A woman clutched her chest. A man whispered, "Oh my God," under his breath. Inside that folder, Monroe explained,
you're in Canada and have over $10,000 of debt, payday loans, credit cards, or lines of credit that you can't pay off or get to zero. First of all, don't worry, you're not alone.
Were dozens of files, video clips, untraceable wire transactions, hidden audio captures, and even what appeared to be falsified documents designed to incriminate or destroy individuals if released. This wasn't insurance, Monroe said flatly. It was extortion in preparation. The prosecutor asked for clarification, and the agent responded without pause. For example, one clip showed a recording of a famous industry executive speaking candidly at what seemed to be a private retreat. There were personal confessions, unfiltered conversations. But the most disturbing part? The timestamps. The device used to record the clip was linked to surveillance equipment found in one of Diddy's guest homes. You could feel the breath drain from the room. These individuals had no idea they were being recorded, Monroe added, and the content was kept with metadata logs tracking their careers, contracts, and public behavior. It was a system of control. If anyone turned on him, Diddy had preloaded ammunition. Diddy sat motionless at the defendant's table, his eyes fixed forward, but his face beginning to crack under the pressure. His lead attorney scribbled furiously on a notepad. It was clear they hadn't expected this level of detail, this level of federal certainty. Agent Monroe wasn't finished. There were also physical items in the vault, unmarked cash bundles, high-value assets like bearer bonds, and, most concerning, multiple passports under aliases. Some issued years apart, all used, all stamped. The judge leaned back in his chair, clearly disturbed but maintaining composure. The jury, meanwhile, was visibly shaken. One juror's leg bounced nervously under their seat. Another sat with their hand over their mouth, eyes wide. And then, Monroe said, "We found a list." He pulled out a printed copy from his file, offering it to the court. It was a roster, celebrities, politicians, media figures. Next to each name were categories: owned, owed, watch, and target. Some names had dates. Others had annotations that, frankly, we're still trying to decode. The prosecutor looked stunned. "Agent Monroe, are you telling this court that the defendant maintained a running inventory of people under his influence?" "Yes," he replied without hesitation, and he referred to it as his vault index. A new wave of murmurs broke out across the courtroom. The judge finally struck the gavel, once sharply. "Order." But the damage was done. The truth was out. This wasn't just a vault filled with secrets, Monroe concluded. It was a centralized operation. Years of leverage, intimidation, and strategic manipulation. Collected, filed, and waiting. It's the most sophisticated personal archive of coercion I've seen in my 24 years at the Bureau. And with that, the courtroom sat in stunned silence once again, the sound of the truth louder than any words spoken after. The world had just glimpsed the skeletons behind the fame, and those skeletons were now dancing in daylight. The air had thickened in the courtroom, not with noise or chaos, but with a silence so heavy it seemed to press against every wall, every chest, every breath. Agent Monroe remained composed, but there was something colder now in his voice, like even he hadn't fully processed the enormity of what they had uncovered inside Diddy's private vault. "Let's talk about the recordings," he said. "There were hundreds." The prosecutor raised an eyebrow. "Hundreds?" Monroe nodded solemnly. "Carefully categorized, indexed by year, location, and subject. Most were audio, some were video, and nearly all were obtained without the knowledge of the people involved." The court shifted again. This was no longer just about power. It was about surveillance, psychological warfare, a legacy not built on talent alone, but on shadows and silence. One file in particular stood out, Monroe continued. It was labeled Fallback Asset DJ.ny.conf. It was an hour-long conversation. The subject was under the influence. He shared stories, personal experiences, industry secrets, even legal vulnerabilities. And at one point he said, "If Puff ever turns on me, I'm done. He's got everything." Murmurs rippled across the room. The implication wasn't just fear, it was total submission. The suggestion that Diddy had people trapped under invisible chains. "And that's the theme," Monroe said. "Each file wasn't just dirt, it was insurance. Not for legal defense, but to guarantee silence, loyalty, or compliance." In one clip, an emerging artist begged to renegotiate a deal. The conversation was calm until Diddy said, "You want freedom? I've got a video of you from Vegas. Keep dreaming." The artist went silent. The prosecutor looked visibly disturbed. "Were there minors involved in any of this?" "We are still investigating," Monroe answered carefully. "There are files we haven't decrypted yet. But what we've found so far already paints a horrifying picture of manipulation and long-term coercion. Contracts rewritten under pressure, Collaborations forced, careers destroyed by a whisper. A journalist at the back wiped tears from her eyes. One juror visibly turned pale. The truth wasn't just shocking, it was corrosive. The agent pulled out a physical item from the evidence folder. It was a small, cracked USB drive, its plastic casing scorched on one side, as if someone had tried to destroy it. This drive was recovered from a hidden panel behind the vault's main storage wall. It had been burned partially. Our forensics team was able to extract 2 video files from it. One of them is now under seal due to its extreme graphic and criminal nature. The other is a private meeting with 2 industry heads, one of whom is still active today. Monroe stared directly at the jury. They weren't talking about music. They were talking about people. Who to push forward, who to blacklist, who to keep in line. Diddy, off camera but audible, is heard saying, "Don't worry, I've got tapes on all of them. They move when I say move." The room didn't gasp this time. They couldn't. It was beyond shock now. It was grief for an industry so many believed in. A realization that so much of what glittered had been manufactured in darkness. Monroe set the USB drive down gently. There's a reason people don't speak out. This vault explains it. For decades, people wondered why certain artists disappeared, why deals fell apart, why executives backed down when they had the upper hand.
You'll get the next part of the
This is why.
story.
They weren't
Thank you for
afraid of
tuning
losing.
in.